Oh my god. I just burped out into my... Hello. Welcome back. Anyway, hi. Today we're going to talk about books. I know, like, I cook, I bake, I vlog, I like dilly dally with my friends, I talk about movies, I'm a cinephile, and I read. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I am trying to read 35 books this year. I'm on the 32nd right now. And today I'm not going to talk about all of them because it's a lot. I'm going to talk about some notable ones and also the last 5 books that I've read. And yeah, let's get into it a little bit. I use Goodreads, which I kind of hate. I really don't enjoy it that much as a format. Like, there's some things that could be improved about it. It's also owned by Amazon, which is just like, no. But here we are. I did use Storygraph for like 6 months, but it was like in 2021 or something. I think a lot of people weren't using it yet, and I found it really frustrating. Like, I found it equally frustrating to use. I feel like it wasn't as good as Goodreads at the time, but now they're like, I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it. I just find it annoying that like when I switched, it changed all the data for like the dates read on the books and stuff. Like, it updated everything, and that was a bit annoying. Anyway, on Goodreads you can do like a reading challenge, and you can set yourself a target for each year. My target for the year is 35, as I just said. In the past, I think the first time I tried to do it, I wanted to do like 30 and only managed to do 20 books. Then the following year I was like, okay, well, I'll just do 20, and then I read 30 books. So then I aimed for like middle of the road, like 25, and then I exceeded it by like so much. There was one year where I read like, I think like 55 books or something, and it wasn't even 2020. I think it was like 2 years after, but I think a lot of that was a lot of comics, which still counts, it's still reading, and I think I like reread a lot of young adult novels, so that was probably what helped. I don't know, maybe I'll make a video about that specific year in books, because that was amazing, and like I haven't reached those heights since. For me, like, reading is increasingly hard, because I like to read at night, but then I get sleepy really fast. So I'll literally fall asleep like, within like 2 seconds of opening it, sometimes. And yeah, like, I'm very picky with the books I read as well. Although saying that, I don't know, I feel like in the last couple of years especially, I've been willing to like give things a try, and sometimes it hasn't always worked out. There, like, obviously book talk is like such a thing now, and I used to really enjoy that part of, well, not enjoy, but like I used to see videos when I was on TikTok, and I would like sometimes take recommendations, but unfortunately I found that a lot of the recommendations are shite, it has to be said, because what appeals to the masses isn't gonna be like tailored to your own individual tastes. You know what I mean? I don't know. I have like very specific tastes in books. Anyway, let's just get into the last 5 books I've read. What the fuck is this? Oh. So I've written them down. Analog, baby. So, starting in September, I read Everyone in This Room Will Soon Be Dead by Emily Austen. I think I got that recommendation from Book Talk, and it just like sat in my to read list for a couple of years, and I did not like it. I can't remember how many stars I rated it, but it was probably quite low. If you liked my year of rest and relaxation, and you wanted that to be even simpler and like even like stupider, then everyone in this room will soon be dead. Well, it's probably gonna hit for you. But unfortunately, I like wanted a little bit more. I don't know. I just found it very depressing, and I literally didn't pick up a book for like 3 weeks after because I was just like, ugh, that was a lot. Like it was so arduous, and just like depressing, but like not even in like an interesting way. Like there's ways to make depression or like hard topics interesting to read, and that one just didn't. Um yeah, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, it reminded me of my year of rest and relaxation. It also reminded me of Eleanor Oliphant is Fine, or whatever that one's called. Is completely fine, whatever. Just this kind of like lonely female narrator who like doesn't really do much to help herself, and things just like seem to happen, and there's like a bit of like tragedy thrown in. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. But it probably bangs if you've never read a book like that before. Like it's probably like baby's first like depression book, you know? That's just my opinion. Anyway, if you like books about like women who are borderline evil or complicated mental health issues, then I recommend basically anything that Margaret Atwood has ever written, and specifically Cat's Eye, I think. Yeah, Cat's Eye or The Robber Bride. Both of those are really good and like enthralling, and it's about like kind of like evil women or whatever. This is the thing as well, like all these books, like Everyone in This Room Will Soon Be Dead and My Year of Rest and Relaxation is all about like, oh, evil women. It's like these women are not evil, like they're just like borderline selfish and introverted. So that's my opinion. Next, in October, I read 3 books while on holiday in Portugal. I was just like, let's go. I think like there was not that much going on TV, and we were really tired after coming home from activities all day, so I would read a lot. I read The Boy Next Door and Every Boy's Got One by Meg Cabot, and they're like in a series that are called like the Boy series or whatever. So interestingly enough, I had read the second book in the series called Boy Meets Girl, I think. And I read that when I was like 15, and it became like one of my favorite books ever. Like I loved it, and it's all told in like formats of like journal entries and emails and voice mails. I was gonna call them voice notes. I didn't have voice notes in the 2000s, honey. But yeah, it's all like told through like if you were a detective and you found all this information kind of thing. Anyway, and the first one, which is called The Boy Next Door, has a similar thing where it's all told through emails. There's not so much the voicemails aspect. And then the third one, Every Boy's Got One, is all in a journal. And it's, oh wait, there are also emails. So yeah, it's mostly journals and emails and no phone calls. So yeah, I guess it's supposed to kind of be like letting each character have like their own voice, but unfortunately Meg Cabot has such a distinct voice that a lot of the characters all kind of end up sounding the same. I love you, Queen, love Meg Cabot, love Princess Diaries, love you forever, Angel, but like it has to be said, so many of her books sound the same. And I think like when I was reading up on like when all these books came out, she was whapping so many out in like a very short period of time. So it really doesn't surprise me that so many of them sound very similar, like tonally. She uses a lot of the same phrases. One thing that she does that pisses me off is that she'll be like, what's a good example? Like she'll say something and then be like, and then like clarify it, like over explain it, where like you really didn't need to explain it, and she'll do that basically at least 10 times in the book, and it gets really, really annoying. Yeah, very frustrating. It's just like very hand-holdy, obviously. But yeah, it's like chiclets, so I guess it's just for like her target is just people who don't read very often, maybe. But yeah, to be honest, like I don't really mind. It's just like a nice switch off your brain. And sometimes you kind of need that. Anyway, The Boy Next Door is about this girly who works for a newspaper. Why, like, people always worked in a newspaper in the 2000s, you know? And she, what does she do? I can't even remember. I did enjoy it. So she, like, helps her neighbour who's, like, gets in an accident and then in a coma and has to look after her neighbour's pets. And then she tries to get in touch with the neighbour's only family, who is, like, a nephew. And the nephew is just like this asshole photographer, so he like gets his friend, like a really old friend from college, to pose as him, as like the neighbor's nephew. And then so the this other guy is also journalist, and he does it, but then falls in love with the girl journalist. And then he's like, shit, I've like lied about my identity and I'm now falling in love with this girl. It's so complicated. And yeah, like, honestly, I kind of love stuff like that where there's just like a really stupid lie. Yeah. Anyway, and then Every Boy's Got One is about like this girly who is joining her bestie and her bestie's fiance for like the trip of a lifetime. The bestie and the fiance are getting married in Italy. So then the girlie is invited as one of the witnesses, and the fiance's bestie, boy bestie, is invited as the second witness, and they don't like each other at first, enemies to lovers, and it's just about that. And it's set in Italy. There's a lot of like, you know, American doesn't understand Europe isms in there. Like they talk about like toilets that are just a hole in the ground, which like if you've been to Europe more than like twice, you understand and you don't think it's a big deal. But in the book, it's like, oh my god, these people are like dogs, and it's just a bit silly. So many of the reviews were like, I cannot believe her ignorance. And it's just like, this is literally chick lit. Like this is not groundbreaking stuff. It's okay. Anyway, I read those very quickly. I think I read both of them within like 24 or 48 hours. Very easy reads. And then the third book I read while on holiday was The Hill House Murders, which is a Japanese book, and it's by Yukito Ayatsuji. It was quite hard to get into. It's like a kind of like locked room puzzle mystery murder thing. And it's told like half of it is told in the past and half of it is told in the present. And there's like an unreliable narrator. And I was trying so hard to figure out who like the murderer or murderers were, and I really couldn't work it out for ages, which I like in a mystery. Like I think that's the sign of a good mystery, when it's not so obvious at the start. There is, I don't know if it's just because it was originally Japanese and it had been translated, but like a lot of the prose feels really stiff at first. So I found it quite hard to get into, but I was just like willing to give it a shot, and I'm really glad I did. Like I ended up really, really enjoying it, and I think I did have 5 stars for that one, because it really surprised me by how good it was. So I would recommend that one. It's apparently part of a series, so I would be interested to check out more. But yeah, when I'm in like a slump or when I really can't sleep, I like to read Sherlock Holmes stories. I'm quirky, and like some of them are really short, so you read one and then before you know it you're asleep kind of thing. So I do enjoy like a murder mystery thing, but I think I enjoy it more when it's like a period setting and not just modern murder mysteries. I don't know, I haven't really read that much. It's not really like a genre I'm into. I'm more into like kind of I don't know. I don't know how I would describe my favourite genre. I think it's more just kind of like just women doing things and weird shit happening to them. That's the genre. Anyway, the fifth book I read in the past couple of months was Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. And I read that in mid-November. And it took me, I think, like 3 weeks to read. Which, when I told one of my besties, she was like, that's really surprising because it was so fast for me. Like, it was a very fast read for her. But yeah, to me, it just like dragged on. I think like a lot of it is about the ins and outs of like the publishing industry, because that's what it's about. It's about a story of, well, is this gonna ruin the plot? I don't think so. Basically, this girlie, she's white, she's like kind of friends with this Chinese author, and the Chinese author dies, and then the white girlie, steals the manuscript that the Chinese girlie was working on and passes it off as her own. That's the plot. So it's all about her like getting it published and the ramifications of it all. But yeah, so much of it is just like the ins and outs, like publishers and like editors and agents. And I'm just like, I do not give a fuck. And like once again, as with everyone in this room will die or will soon be dead, whatever. It's like a kind of like unlikable, introverted, kind of like not very sociable female narrator, and I just really couldn't give a fuck. I mean, that's like kind of the point, is like it's an unlikable character, an unlikable narrator especially, but I need like something do you know what I mean? Like I need something to like latch onto to actually give a fuck, and I just really didn't. Like I really couldn't care less. And I did like the ending, but I wish like more stuff had happened way before that. Like I feel like so much of the good stuff was in like the last maybe 25%, and I wish it had taken up more. Like she basically goes into like paranoia and starts like doubting herself, and I wish it had been more about that. Like if it had been more of like a psychological horror through more of it, instead of like 50% about the publishing industry and then getting into like some kind of actual conflict, you know? So yeah, and also like so much of it was to do with like Twitter stuff, like her getting cancelled online and stuff. I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about this, you know? Anyway, why am I so sleepy? So that's the last like 5 books I've read. So there's a variety. I really didn't like the last or the first one that I talked about. Those were really the lowest ones, but the 3 in the middle were really good. Currently I'm reading Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I am enjoying it. It's an easy read. I don't like when things are set in like the past, but they use phrases that are really modern. So for example, like a character's bitching about something and they're like, Elizabeth fucking Zott. Like someone in the 50s wouldn't say that, you know? Like they wouldn't use that phrase, or they wouldn't use it in that way. So yeah, that's the only bugbear I really have with it, is like sometimes it feels like a really modern tone when it's supposed to be like in the 50s. But yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot. My mum is like obsessed with the TV show, so maybe I'll watch it after, although I don't know. But yeah, I do like it, and I was shocked when one of the characters died, so I guess that means I kind of liked it. And I cried. I did cry actually, yeah, I did. So maybe I was invested, I don't know. Anyway, it's cute so far. It's like about a girlie who's like a scientist, and she falls in love with another scientist, and it's set in the 50s, so she is obviously like dealing with a lot of misogyny, time related, you know, like time specific misogyny of just like no one believing that she's a good enough scientist, everyone thinking she's just riding on her boyfriend's coattails, and then she becomes like a TV star later on. That's all. And there's a dog called 630. I don't know how else to sell it to you. I feel like people have described it as like marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which yeah, I think actually it is very similar to that, where it's just like a housewife who like becomes a big deal. But yeah, I do like it so far. I really enjoy like things that are about, yeah, like mid-century kind of like science or psychology breakthroughs. Like I really loved Masters of Sex, that TV show that came out, although I don't think I watched more than the first season, but I did enjoy it. And I like anything to do with that, or like Mona Lisa Smile. That's such a good movie, guys. We need to talk about Mona Lisa Smile. Just kind of like people who shake things up. And maybe I'll talk about Mona Lisa Smile in a separate video. Please let me know if you would like to watch that, because I love that movie and I will rewatch it every day for a fucking week. Anyway, so that's what I've been reading lately. This year has been a little bit of a struggle bus. Although actually when I was like looking through for my favourites of the year, I realised that I had not marked down maybe like 7 books that I could have, and I would have reached my goal if I'd just written them down. But I'm humble. I am humble. So for my faves of the year so far, let's just go through in chronological order. One of the first proper books I read of the year was actually The Women in Me by Britney Spears. I think my brother got it for me for Christmas. Thanks, Murray. Because I specifically asked, like, I want this. Like, I really wanted it. I also got Down the Drain by Julia Fox, but I haven't finished it because it was really heavy. So that's literally been in my, like, currently reading, and I've been at, like, 25% for most of the year, because I'm just like, yeah, I'll get back to it soon, and I just don't. I think also I just, like, I have the hardback, and I hate reading hardbacks in bed so much, so maybe I just like need to download it onto my Kindle. This is another thing as well, is I have a Kindle that I bought secondhand, and I treated myself to a Kindle that's backlit because I like to be able to read without the light on and to know that I can fall asleep without the light on, because I would do that a lot. I would like be reading, fall asleep, wake up 3 hours later with all the lights on. I'd be like, what the fuck? So it's just nice to have that taken care of for me. So that was a treat for myself. I mean, by treat, I mean like, what did I spend? Like £30 or something. But that's a treat for me. Anyway, so Women in Me by Britney. Honestly, amazing. She is such an icon. Every man that has messed her up needs to now. The next one that I really loved was Luster by Raven Leilani. I had read Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid like a few months prior, and then I read Luster and I was like, oh, Such a Fun Age is trying to be Luster and failing, like miserably. Luster is about like this girly who's like having an affair, and then she ends up basically moving in with the married man's family, and like, yeah. There's other stuff going on. That's very much in the like kind of evil women field. But that one was executed really, really well. I really recommend it. Yeah, I just liked it. Then I read the Dungeon Meshi series by Ryoko Kui. I love Dungeon Meshi so much. Listen, I grew up reading manga, watching anime. I was such a weeb growing up. I will readily admit it. I loved manga so much. and I still kind of do. Like, sorry, it's just fun. I love drawings. I love looking at drawings. And yeah, I think Dungeon Meshi is like such a fun series. The characters are amazing. The story's great, although for me it did kind of go like a bit haywire, and also by the end of it I was so stressed. Like, I was reading the last 2 volumes like, what the fuck is going on? I was so scared. But yeah, it's really good. And the show is also good. I watched it. And I'm excited for the second series to come out. And I enjoyed the dub, surprisingly enough. Sometimes I prefer sub versions of anime, but I did enjoy the dub. And no further comment about who I fancy from the show. Then I reread, because I always do. I always have to reread like a few things every year. I think it just helps your brain like remember that books are good. I think like if you're against rereading things, then what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, it's just nice to remind yourself that like good stories exist. And that's why I need to remind myself sometimes, is like, good things are worth waiting for. So I reread The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4 by Sue Townsend. Honestly, one of my favourite series. I always say like, yeah, I'm going to reread the whole thing, but then I always stop after like 4 books because I'm like, Adrian, you're such a wet blanket. But yeah, I think Sue Townsend is like one of the funniest authors ever to have lived. R.I.P. Queen. When I found out she died, I was heartbroken. I really, really was, actually. And like, I've been reading Adrian Mole books since probably about the same age as the first one is set during. I think I was probably about 14, which honestly is too young to read it. It's very much like a teenage novel, but for adults to like remember being a teenager, if you know what I mean, which I kind of love. But yeah, very, very funny, very sharp-witted, and I feel like every time I read it, I like discover something new. Like, I discover a new joke that completely flew over my head the last time I read it. And yeah, a lot of like the irony passed by me when I was younger, unfortunately. I feel like really I didn't understand irony until I was maybe like, I want to say like early to mid 20s. So some of us it takes a bit longer. And some of us it never clicks. So yeah, very ironic humor, and I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend if you want something a bit silly. It's like a diary format, and it's set in the 70s going into the 80s, and it's just about some lad, and he's from Yorkshire, and he's pretentious and he's up himself, and he's surrounded by idiots, and it's just very funny, and I really recommend it. And then the last one I really liked from this year, it was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and literally when I was writing that down I was like, but what was actually the plot? And then I remembered. So Miss Girly, it's a rom-com, so Miss Girly gets broken up with by her fiance, or maybe just long-term boyfriend, and then finds out that he is with his girl BFF, and they get engaged really fast. And then she has nowhere to live because she moved to be with him, Miss Girly. So then Miss Girly moves in with the girl that her ex left her for's ex-boyfriend. Does that make sense? Please let me know if not. It's basically like two couples, one guy goes off with the girl, the other girl goes to live with the other guy. You know? So, and it's about how they then fall in love, obviously. And like they pretend to be together at first, and then it turns out they're not together, but then they end up together, obviously. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I think so. I've read like every single Emily Henry book, sometimes much to my horror. I really love People on Vacation, or People We Meet on Vacation, what the fuck ever. And that's my favourite of hers. Apparently it's getting made into a movie. Can't fucking wait. And yeah, I think unfortunately all of her other ones have not hit as well as People We Meet on Vacation, but Funny Story is a close second. So if you were thinking about it, if you've read People We Meet on Vacation, you liked it, then Funny Story is okay. Again, it's not going to change the world. It's literally a rom-com. It's chick lit. It's very cliche, but I liked it. What can I say? I'm just a simple girl. I like to just read people being in love. Anyway, let me think of books that I would like to read. Let me go on my Kindle to see what I've downloaded that I want to read, but I maybe haven't had the chance. One thing I really want to read is Notes on Heartbreak by Annie Lord, but I literally read like 10 pages of it and I started crying, so I think it's maybe too fresh right now because I just went through a breakup in April, so maybe in like the new year. I have little fires everywhere here. I don't really know why. I think my mum like hyped it up and I was just like, okay. I also started reading Girl, Women, Other, and I did like it, although the format is really weird. Like there's hardly any punctuation and there's no capitalizations when there's no new sentences. And at first I thought it was just the file I downloaded. I was like, what the fuck did I do when I converted it from an EPUB to an AZW3? But then I read reviews and it was like, yeah, why is there no punctuation and no capitalization? I was like, oh, it's a choice. It's a choice. But yeah, I've read mixed reviews about it, but I'm trying to ignore reviews, especially with books, because some people have really shit opinions about books. And you might think I do. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Like, I'm not all-knowing. I'm not, you know, I don't have the end-all be-all of opinions. I just have my own. My tastes are different from other people's. That's completely fine. But yeah, I'm trying really hard not to read reviews because some people... This is a thing, okay? On Goodreads especially, you'll read like a review that is so bad for something, and you'll be like, well, I didn't really mind that book. And then you go to their page and you see what they are most recently reading that they've like given 5-star to, and you're like, I see. Okay. Like this is something that you need to do with every kind of like social media, whatever, where people review things, is have a look at their profile to see who they actually are, because a lot of the time you'll realize that like they're not qualified. You know what I mean? Like you'll go to their profile, they're 19 and it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. You know? Anyway, that's my thoughts on books that I've read so far. Maybe I'll update the list at the end of the year. I'm gonna definitely update my like best movies of the year in January, but maybe I'll do like an all-encompassing movie of just like all-encompassing video of like the updated media I've enjoyed for the year. So that's all from me this week.